Huh? Who is it?
You may remember.
We're live. You might know. Okay. Just let me know. Let me know later.
Okay.
I don't know that I knew that. Maybe I did. So Julie Jones is with me, and we are like 1 minute before we start.
Okay.
And I talked to you, I don't know, a week or so ago, and you just moved. So
I did.
You're all settled in.
Settled is a loose term.
The area of your place behind you is settled in.
Everything in your view is done, and that's all that matters. You don't have to worry about what's on the other side of this screen.
You know, at least you, I would say, got started. Maybe. I mean, you're not.
Yeah, it was definitely a busy weekend.
Not halfway done. No.
The thing is, like, if I get my kitchen right, that's half the battle for me. So my kitchen and my clothes. So that's where I am.
Okay. Well,
yeah. I figure by next weekend I'll be in good shape.
Well, that works. You know, it just takes you a little time. And God, I hate moving, more or less moving, or to another state. I lived in Chicago for a while, and geez, coming home it's a big deal. It's a big deal when you're.
This is my 6th move in 10 years. And when I say move, like big, at least half country move. This was more of like a 3/4 country move from Colorado to Virginia. But I'm hoping this is my last one, because it puts me a lot closer to my brother and my sister and their families. And when you start hitting those milestone birthdays, that becomes a little bit more important.
You want to be home.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I get that. That's exactly what happened to me. Chicago was okay. I couldn't imagine living there forever, but it was a nice.
Imagine you living in Chicago.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just can't.
Me either. But I actually lived out. That was a whole life ago, and I lived out in the northwest suburbs. I say Chicago, but it was really Chicago. You always say Chicago because it's the big metropolitan area.
Sure.
But I was out in the northwest suburbs, and then my last year there, I actually took a consulting job, and I worked. I still lived out there, but I worked downtown Chicago.
Okay.
So I had to you don't try to drive. So I'd take the train down every day. And I met some guys and gals that have been doing that 40 years. I'm like, there's no way, and so I worked right by the Chicago River. We dye it green every year for St. Patty's Day. I worked on the 27th floor of the Civic Opera building. It was very cool. It was a great experience, but a year was enough. I like to hunt and fish and do my stuff. So Kentucky is a good spot for me. So
that's how I feel about DC. 2.5 years was enough for me. I was ready.
Yeah. Well, let's get going. We've got a little over 100 folks on, and I think it's the time. So I would say good morning, but it's not good morning. It's a good afternoon, appraisers. I'm Bryan Reynolds, your host. This is the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. And I am so happy to be back. I'm back and knocked out a couple of podcasts last week. Those will be coming out to you very, very soon. Our regular scheduled webinar is this coming Thursday at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. You're not going to want to miss that. We've got Craig Morley, the president of the NAA, and we'll still be talking about some more COVID stuff with Craig. And then next Monday, a week from today, we've got Freddie Mac, and Scott Reuter with Freddie Mac will be on another special edition webinar at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. All of these sessions are recorded as usual. And so if you can't be here for the duration, you can jump over to YouTube, which is how you're watching us now, and see the recorded version. And then finally, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you stay in the know. Finally, you can ask questions at any time. The nice thing about this format is it's not rehearsed. You don't have a script. And as a consequence, it's just a live conversation, and you can participate in the conversation by typing some messages. Somebody asked me the other day, said, all right, well, what are we going to talk about? Can you send me some notes? And I said, no, I'm not sending you anything. Julie,
the first time I joined you, I was like, that is terrifying to me. I do everything by bullet points. And I was like, oh, you just want me to go up there and talk? No, thanks.
I think you held up a book at the end of it, and it was a big book full of, gosh, did I ask you any of that stuff? Oh, you're prepared again today. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am super, super happy and excited for today. Miss Julie Jones has agreed, or was voluntold maybe, to participate on the show today. And Julie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in just a second, but she's with Class, and she travels around the country. She speaks a lot. She does a great job. And so I was talking to John Dingman one night, and he was telling me about some new news that you guys have going on. And I said, well, why don't you be on a webinar? He's like, no, pick Julie. And I said,
you're going to get him on a webinar soon enough.
I'm like, I'm happy to pick Julie. Don't worry about it. So that's how this special edition webinar came into place. So Julie, welcome. Thank you for being here once again, and tell everybody who you are and what is it you do.
Sure. Well, first, a couple of points. Thank you for having me. This is fun. I've been in sweatpants and haven't done my face for what feels like 2 months now. So thank you for having me and giving me some social interaction, because I've been driving the dog crazy. And then to welcome back. So glad to know that you're doing well. And we were certainly all praying for you and thinking about you. So really happy to know that you're feeling better. My name is Julie Jones. I work at Class Valuation. I'm the Senior Vice President of Appraiser Outreach and Engagement. So long story short, I just kind of gather all the facts about what's going on in the industry and make sure that our appraisers know what's going on. If they need training materials, if they need webinars to support them, that's essentially my job. And so a lot of listening and a lot of talking to appraisers and understanding how we can support them and serve them better.
Great. Well, we're going to get into it. And so I was wrong. We have a couple hundred people watching. So not to make you more nervous, but anyway, thank you, appraisers, for being here. And not appraisers. We've got AMCs, we've got lenders, we've got underwriters, we've got regulators, and we also have people all over the country. We have people from Puerto Rico, from Hawaii, Canada, certainly the States. And so welcome. I'm glad you're here. Appraiser eLearning loves providing you with this information. It's free. So it's our way to give back to you. And we've got 3, counting today, we've got 3 coming up in a week's time. So that's a lot, but it's our way. Yeah. It's our way to try and get the word out to you guys as to what's going on. One of the podcasts I recorded the other day was, I had 3 female appraisers, boots on the ground appraisers. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they were all over the place. One from Mississippi, one from Arkansas, one here in Kentucky. And we just had a conversation about, what are you doing? Are you doing only drive-bys or exteriors? And appraisers are a little nervous out there, a little scared. I've got one appraiser that works for me out of our Nashville office. And he told my administrator, Krista, she called me and she said, he just doesn't want to do any right now. He had a conversation with his wife. She's nervous. He's not comfortable. So he's literally just going to stop, and not do anything. And so we're going to talk about that today. And then we're going to talk about, the policies that have been amended, or the temporary policies that have come into place. And we're going to talk about what you think appraisers should do, and then some of the cool tools and whatnot that you guys have established that will maybe even help us be safer out there, right? So let's just jump into it. This stuff started, at least for me, and for those that don't know, I got COVID on March 17th, and I was, it knocked me off my feet. I mean, it was tough stuff. I ended up in the hospital, and I am just very fortunate, blessed, and thankful for being here, because it was a very scary time for my family and I. Julie, so let's just jump in and let's just talk about secondary market stuff for a while, and let our viewer, I'm a little behind because I was kind of out of action for a while, and I'm trying to catch up. so that we can get the word out to practitioners. But I have found out that a lot of appraisers out there, they're kind of behind too. They really don't know, or they don't have the resources, or what. I know Fannie Mae made changes and VA made changes, and where do I go to find all this stuff, and what are they? So in a nutshell, let's just throw Fannie and Freddie together because they're normally pretty consistent on their guidelines. Why don't you just kind of give us a summary of what it is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have amended or adjusted during this crisis for the appraisal community?
Sure. Well, first we have to start with their regulator, FHFA. So FHFA essentially came out and said, hey guys, you can implement these flexibilities. And so Fannie and Freddie actually worked together to come up with very consistent policies and documentation supporting the alternates that they will accept as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's start with purchase transactions. They will allow desktop and exterior only appraisals. The cool thing about desktops is they're like the 1004 and the 1073, lenders are still eligible for value rep and warrant relief. And so for our appraisers not quite familiar with what value rep and warrant relief means, is under most circumstances, like property eligibility being outside of those guidelines, if let's say when you complete your appraisal and it gets submitted to CU or LP, is it LP? LCA, excuse me. You are familiar with there's a scoring system of 1 to 5 in CU, for example. So anything that has a risk score of 2.5 or lower, that means lenders get value rep and warrant relief, meaning they do not have to repurchase that loan if it's value related. So that's big for lenders, right? They want that certainty that they can sell that loan and say, in another crisis, not have to buy back large pools of loans. So
yeah, there's no recourse, right? There's no recourse on those.
Right. So that's why the use of desktop appraisals on the 1004 and 1073 are so big for purchases. So on purchases, again, desktop and exterior onlys are allowed. On refi transactions, only exterior reports are allowed. So those are your 2055s, your 1075s, and then for your multifamily and your manufactured, they're allowing you to use the 1025 form and the 1004C form, and then implement those modified scope of work, limiting conditions, and certs. That's a good thing to note, that there are a set of modified scope of work, assumption of limited conditions, and certifications on all of those, and those are available. I'll show you a one-stop resource guide for those, but those must be implemented with the use of those forms. Now, let's do some carve-outs. So what this does not apply to, these flexibilities do not apply to purchase transactions over 85% LTV on a second home. This does not apply to cash out refis. And then on your rate term refis, there's no transfer of risk, meaning if on that previous transaction it was sold to Fannie Mae, on the refi transaction, it has to be sold to Fannie Mae again. You can't send it over to Freddie Mac and vice versa. And so lenders have some loan lookup tools to use to determine, if it's eligible for that refi transaction. Otherwise, so on your other transactions, or if it doesn't apply, or let's say the appraiser does not have enough information to do a desktop or to do an exterior, you have to go the traditional appraisal route. And so what that means for us appraisers is, if you don't want to be out there in the field and going into people's houses, I certainly wouldn't, those orders get put on hold. Mm-hmm. That's our policy anyway at Class Valuation, is we put them on hold.
Do you know approximately what the percentage is? And if you don't, that's okay, but just a guesstimate of what the percentages of your transactions that you are changing the order to a desktop or a drive-by on something that you would have normally done a 1004 on?
So we're starting to see the adoption pick up week over week. Mm-hmm. Right now, so on conventional, so anything that's going to go to Fannie and Freddie, let's see, I've got about 12% adoption rate on those alternate products, and that's mostly going to be on your exterior products, because again, we still are in a refi market. You're going to see more of those exterior only appraisals as opposed to the desktops. That does bring up a really good point, Brian. as these flexibilities were introduced by the GSEs and HUD and USDA, there's been a lot of confusion on all sides. So that's lender confusion, appraiser confusion, and then even, we'll admit some AMC confusion. So some of the confusion on the part of the lenders is knowing what product to order when, knowing what gets carved out, what they need, what steps they need to take. And I think there's also been a little bit of confusion too with the guidance from the GSEs. Originally, it was more of it was worded in their documents as a waterfall, that if you can't order the traditional appraisal or you can't obtain it, then, you implement these alternates. Now they've come out with their updated FAQs and documentation saying that's not so much the case, or at least the lender does not have to prove that they tried to get the traditional, couldn't, in order to get the alternate. That is available in both GSE FAQs. And so probably a little more clear guidance is needed there, just so lenders know that they can adopt these. From the AMC perspective, I can tell you that we don't want to change an order without lender direction first. And it's not just lender direction at a loan level. We can't go back to the lender every single loan, right, and say, hey, we can't get a traditional in this market, or there's a shelter in place order or whatever. We wanted more of a global policy of, what do you want to do on all future orders? And so there was a little bit of lag time there from when the guidance went out, so that lenders could absorb all of the guidance and the flexibilities and AMCs as well.
Very good. So one thing that I think that's kind of, I don't know, I guess funny, is that, we've heard the term hybrid, bifurcation. We've heard the terms, desktop. And the majority, I think it's fair to say the majority of the appraisal profession said, no, absolutely not. I got to go in and see it and touch it, smell it. And by God, if I'm signing my name to it, I got to see it. And, in all honesty, many, many years ago, that was me. I mean, I didn't do drive-bys. I mean, that was my position. And then finally I woke up and I'm like, oh, I can do drive-bys. And if I was going to appraise, a 400 unit complex, I wouldn't go into all 400 units, for crying out loud. So I kind of had a wake up call and started doing different things. But my point is, what's kind of interesting is over the last, year, when all these buzzwords have come along and the appraisal community has pushed back and said, by gosh, we're not going to do them. And the lenders, it seems like we're encouraging, let's explore new opportunities and different things. It seems like there's a little bit of a role reversal now because of the pandemic, in that appraisers are like, God, I don't want to go in that house. Can I just do a desktop? And what I have found, Julie, is a lot of the lenders have said, no, we want a 1004, so it's kind of been a role reversal. What is it with these, so I know if Fannie Mae adopts something or Freddie Mac adopts something, sometimes it just takes a while for the lenders to, kind of catch on. I mean, are you seeing they've kind of come a little slower to the gate, or what's going on with the lenders now?
Yeah, I think it does boil down to the confusion around the guidance, and originally lenders thinking that it had to take more of a waterfall approach, and for them now to understand, okay, I don't have to document that I tried to get this traditional first. I can go ahead and order this desktop or this exterior. I can tell you from all of our clients, we only have one client that has allowed us to say, order the alternate upfront. The rest of them are still lagging behind. And so that's probably gonna take a little bit of time. But what's really interesting is, the desktops and exteriors this go around is born out of necessity.
Right.
And it's not just, the desire to innovate or to quote unquote modernize. We have to do this to protect ourselves.
Absolutely.
And to protect the public. So I think it is interesting because appraisers are a little more open-minded to it. And I think, maybe it broadens their horizons a little bit. Like pre-crisis, I was your drive-by girl. Like I loved them. And I loved that most appraisers in my market didn't like to do them because that meant more business for me. But, you have to figure too, there are a ton of appraisers that have never worked pre 2008. They may have never even seen a drive-by or exterior only appraisal, and maybe they've never done a desktop, say for HELOCs. Desktop or HELOCs right now are so common, but maybe they've never added that. So I think it's a really good time, especially for some of us where it's slowed down a little bit. It's a good time to reset, to take a look at all those resources that are available and decide what's right for your business.
Yeah, we are creatures of habit, and we resist change. And we get comfortable. And I talk to people about that with regularity. I'm a big proponent of the book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? And our cheese gets moved a lot, whether we want it to or not. And we've got to learn to embrace change and get ready. Some change may be bad, but not all change is bad. Some change can be really good. It can be an opportunity. And so we one thing for sure, things going to change. And I always tell people, if you don't believe me, look in the mirror. Things are going to change whether you want them to or not. And if you are stuck in the sand there and you say, hey, all I'm doing 1004s, that's how I was trained, that's my comfort level, then you might need to rethink that position, because what if they go away entirely? And I'm not suggesting they are. We are getting a couple questions in, and Gerald, I'll get to you in Gerard, excuse me, I'll get to you in just a minute. We'll take some questions, but let me ask you, we talked about Fannie and Freddie and some of the conventional product. What about FHA and VA? So what have they come out during this time? Give us a highlight on that.
I'm going to be completely honest. I can help you on HUD and USDA. On VA, I am not your gal.
Okay.
Just because it doesn't sit in my world, I would be a fool to even comment on VA. So I'll focus on HUD. Basically, HUD pretty much did the same thing that Fannie Mae and Freddie did. So Fannie and Freddie's announcement came out on a Monday morning, I believe, and then HUD came out Friday afternoon with their guidance that same week. They pretty much mirrored. The only difference is on those desktop products, they are only having them put on the interior forms. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. On all of the desktop and the exterior, they're only putting them on the interior form. So say, for example, you're doing a desktop or an exterior and it's a single family, you're putting it on the 1004,
right,
1073, 1025, 1004C. That's really the only caveat there. And then they also don't have any flexibilities for new construction as Fannie and Freddie do. Fannie and Freddie came out and allowed a completion cert or alternate in lieu of that 1004D. And they're also allowing them to apply for the subject to, they're allowing some alternates there. HUD has not done that. USDA usually follows suit with HUD. The only difference here is they're only allowing exterior only products. And so that's going to be your 2055 and your 1075.
So, one of the things, for instance, for our viewers, and I'm told that appraisers are still missing this, is like, as Julie said, you put it on a traditional form, the 1004 form. And for an exterior, up where the map reference is, you type the word exterior, right? For a desktop, you type the word desktop. And I believe that's all lowercase, if I remember hearing that correctly. Yep. And don't put anything else in, and appraisers are not putting that in there. So be sure you do that, guys. Now, Julie had sent me, and it's funny you said Freddie Mac came out with that on a Monday, and I believe that to be true because Freddie Mac tried to call me on Friday, maybe it was Thursday. Danny called me from Freddie Mac, and I didn't answer. I was in bed with like 103-degree fever. And that was before I knew I had the COVID, but I knew I was sick. And then he texted me and he said, hey, I want to give you a heads up. I'll send you a notification. We've got we're making an announcement on Friday. And I'm like, great. And then I asked him, I said, hey, won't you be on a webinar? And he's like, I said, can I interview you or something? And he sent back, he said, not right now. He said, we got to get all the FAQs done and everything else. And so as you can imagine, that's a big ordeal to change existing policy or to modify it, even temporarily. So, I have to say, I have to give all these agencies and secondary market participants, kind of a pat on the back, if you will, because it seems like everybody has sprung into action pretty quickly to try and find ways to keep, appraisers and users of appraisal services and the public safe, or safer, if you will. Now, Julie, when I first talked to you about coming on, you emailed me like a novel of information, but I want to say this. It was really big font. So while it looks pretty, it's easy to read. It's
the Reader's Digest version of it.
And then I really like it. I mean, it looks really cool. I've got a big green page that highlights and says exterior only. So I can, if I want to look at that, and then I go and it's blue for desktop. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. So it's a kind of a really nice reference material. Is this something that our viewers today could get their hands on if they wanted to see this?
Yes, you can. And you know what? I'm going to share my screen real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay. So hopefully you can see the full screen.
I can.
Hold on. How about now?
I can see it. Yes.
All right, cool. All right. And I can put this in the chat, and then we can also share. If you just do go.classvaluation.com/COVID-19 guide, I've got, you just put in your email address, and then you say, I'm an appraiser or a lender broker. And the only difference between the appraiser and the lender guide is the appraiser has some more information in it. And just those industry links, and then, what you should do, some FAQs, etc. And I will pull it up real quick too. That's the industry announcements I want to show you. But basically, I'm all about background, number one. So I just explained what the background is here. The ruling.
Julie, I hate to interrupt. Is this so? That looks exactly what you sent me. This is the exact same guide you sent me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Same exact thing. So when somebody goes to it, they put in their email address, they say who they are, so they get the right packet, and it automatically starts to download. What's good about that is there is so much information and it's changing rapidly. I will continually keep this guide updated with that website as well. So let's say, you've heard there's something new that came out, but you're not really sure. If you bookmark that website and then download it again, you'll have the newest version. So this one was updated 3/31. There were a couple of other minor flexibilities that were announced recently, I believe on the 14th. They really didn't have an impact, so to speak, to our appraisers, and so I didn't bother updating it. So you're going to have the meat and potatoes here. What I do like about this is we explain our policies, our temporary order procedures. If we don't have direction from our lender, we put it on hold, we update it, and then we proceed. And we always proceed with that original appraiser. I've got the products approved by transaction. I've got your general FAQs, but this is really going to be helpful. So slide 9, your industry announcements.
Wait. Go back to what you just said. You said we always proceed with the original appraisal. Explain that again.
Yeah. So let's say a traditional is ordered, a traditional appraisal, a 1004.
Okay.
And our appraiser reports back and says, I don't feel comfortable going in the house for XYZ. Either I'm in a shelter in place, or the homeowner is not feeling well, whatever the reason may be, by COVID-19 standards. That appraiser doesn't feel comfortable doing an interior inspection. If that lender wants to keep an interior inspection, we do not reassign it to another appraiser. We've got a lot of feedback from other industry participants that they're just going around trying to find an appraiser that will accept the interior. That's not our policy. It's appraiser first, health and safety of the appraiser and the general public first for us. And so if the lender wants to keep the traditional appraisal and not go to an alternate like a desktop or an exterior, however they apply or are eligible, then we keep it assigned to that appraiser, keep it on hold until either the shelter in place is lifted, the borrower isn't symptomatic, or the appraiser feels comfortable. And then,
great.
yeah, I just, for us, it's the ethical and the right thing to do. We don't just, shop around for an appraiser who's willing to put their health at risk.
Great.
So that's our policy there. Now, if the lender does want to update and take advantage of those flexibilities for the desktop or the exterior, if that original appraiser is willing to do that desktop or exterior, then we keep it assigned to them, we update the order, and we move on. If they are not, then we will, of course, look for an appraiser that's willing to do that exterior or desktop appraisal, just because that flexibility has been offered, and we want to make sure that that lender is able to close that loan.
But you're giving that option to the original appraiser
initially.
Yeah. Okay, great. I just wanted to highlight that because that's what I thought I heard. That's what I thought I heard. I want to make sure. All right. I'm sorry. Back to the industry announcements.
Yeah, no, so the only thing that I wanted to point out here is I've got everything just in one spot. So if you're kind of fishing around for the lender letter or the FAQs, they're all here. And then I've got the dates that they're updated as well. So again, if you save this document or if you bookmark those, you're always going to have the latest information there. And then I'm not going to bother going through this whole thing, but I've got your approved forms for each inspection type here, just so there's no confusion. Also, I do want to point out, and I'll stop sharing at this point as well, but there has been some confusion among appraisers where they were just updating their order while it was in progress. So let's say they had a 1004 and then they read, that these flexibilities were offered. And then all of a sudden we started getting in some 2055s on, that 1004 order because they heard the flexibilities were offered. Again, we have to wait to see what the lender decides. And so
sure.
Appraisers just can't update the order in flight and then just send it to us.
Let me ask you a couple of questions, Julie, and these are coming in from our viewers, and we're already at the halfway mark. Unbelievable. So I'm gonna not let you leave early. We're gonna, if I can hold you over a couple of extra minutes, I'm going to. But let's
I like to run my mouth.
Yeah. Let's look at a couple of these questions, and then I'll make a little announcement, and we'll get back into it. So Suzanne is asking, how do we handle the FHA verbiage regarding all systems such as attics, crawl spaces, subject to meeting minimum HUD requirements on an exterior or desktop? I mean, that's a great question, Suzanne. You're not going up in the attic, head and shoulders, or crawl space like you normally do on an interior. How do they handle that, Julie?
I'm going to get a gut check from John Dingman if he happens to be on, but it is my understanding on those that they are allowed to use borrower photos, but I would like a gut check on that one.
Okay. Can you confirm the website again? And so maybe we can have, we'll have Julie do that. And then Benjamin, can you put a link in? So just so our viewers know, because I've had people say, well, Bryan, I said good morning to you. I said hi, and I said hi 5 times, and you never acknowledged me. People, I can't see any of your comments, so don't make fun of me because I can't defend myself. All right. I can only see what Ben decides to send me. So all of y'all out there, making comments and making fun of me, I can't see any of that. I'm only seeing what Ben chooses to send me. So Ben, if you can let everybody know what that website is, and Julie just put it up too, but Julie, read that out to everybody too, please.
Yeah. So it's go.classvaluation.com/COVID-19 guide.
Very good. To Julie, how long are you willing to keep an appraisal on hold? And I guess that really is ultimately up to your lender, right? Your client.
It is up to the lender.
But what's your guess on that? And some of this stuff, guys, is changing daily, and we may not have all the answers. So this is our best educated guess, if you will. But Julie, what do you think? What have you seen so far as them?
I mean, we still have a few orders that are on hold from, day one. And, especially for those transactions that don't apply or aren't eligible for these flexibilities, we have to keep it on hold. We can't risk giving the lender a product that they ultimately can't use, or, for a loan they're going to have to buy back. So it's going to be at the lender's discretion. If the lender has had a conversation with that borrower and said, hey, we have to go this traditional route, or you want the interior inspection, whatever the case may be, they're having to have those tough conversations with the borrowers that either they have to cancel the loan and revisit that later, or keep it on hold indefinitely until sanctions are lifted, or until they can get the interior inspection.
So here's a great question, because he talks about me. All right. Michael asked a question. Eventually, there are going to be a bunch of appraisers that are effectively immune, like Bryan. Will policies change to accommodate appraisers that are immune? Maybe provide a blood test or something?
That's interesting. I think that question even goes beyond appraisal. For being able to gather in large spaces, concerts, conferences, and things like that. So that is way beyond me. It's a good point and something to really think about. But again, there would have to be some sort of proof. And how do you authenticate that blood test or those results are yours? I don't know.
So here's I've been telling people I'm probably the safest person on the planet to be near right now. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds good. Deborah asked, and Deborah, I'm glad you asked this, but we're going to hold the answer until after the break. But Julie, Deborah has just put this on the back burner. Deborah is asking, what are other appraisers doing with 25 exteriors when there is no information or photos available on a property and the borrower is not responding? The borrower not responding is a little different than what I thought that would be, but we'll get more in depth in that in just a minute. And then Gerard said, do you know what percentage of appraisers are refusing interior inspections? That's a great question. Any idea on that, Julie?
Yeah, so honestly, it changes often.
Yeah.
And and it's also by region, it's by county. So let's start with, for example, those 7 counties that were in the Bay Area of California, where they were really the first to have that mass shelter in place. Then we had a mass of appraisers to say, I can't do interior inspections. And so it changes, honestly. It's beyond daily. It changes hourly. And so, and being able to provide a percentage, I can't tell you. We do have a special code for our appraisers that if they've been impacted by COVID, that they don't want to do interior inspections, period, there's a code that we put in their profile, and then they just call us back when they're ready for that to be changed. But I don't have the number on that for you.
Okay. So I've got a question here, and I doubt this guy's even watching, but maybe he's watching. I just got a text from some guy in Tennessee, and his name's Bryan. That's all I'm going to say. And it wasn't me. Although he does spell his first name the same way I do. That's interesting. He said, and he's in Nashville, Bryan in Nashville. Quick question for you. I had a client change an order to do an exterior 2055 appraisal. I copy and pasted the scope of work and certification, etc., like Fannie Mae suggested, and put it on the signature page. The client is now saying they have to have both the original scope, certification, etc., the one that has the signature, email, client, etc., and the revised version put on it. Any insight?
I'm wondering if that has to do, there was an issue with some of the softwares. I want to say ACI and Alamode in particular. And if anybody is from those groups, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to misspeak. It was something to do with the transmission of the appraisal file itself, that XML file. I think that would be the only reason why. Technically, those are not technically 100%, though that scope of work, that modified scope of work, limiting conditions and certs, that overrides your existing. So as long as it's there, it's fine. But if I had to guess, that's going to be a transmission issue with the XML file. I think that's right. I don't think there's been a fix for that just yet.
Gotcha. Okay, great. I'd like to remind everyone watching, you are watching the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by the fine folks at Appraiser eLearning. And we bring these to you traditionally the fourth Thursday of every month at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. And you're sitting there thinking, well, it's not Thursday and it's not 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. Well, we occasionally offer a special edition webinar, and that's what you're watching today. So thank you for being here. We're happy that you're here. These sessions, like all, are recorded. They're readily available on YouTube. Just search Appraiser eLearning and you can find those. As you probably have noticed, we don't have any sponsors, so we're not plugging different people. We'll talk about different people, and sometimes we'll have them on there if we think they offer something of service or value to you as a practitioner. But we don't sell ads. I mean, we might someday. We got to keep the lights on. And so that being said, when you need your CE, we would ask that you remember us here at Appraiser eLearning, whether it be an online class, and we are also offering virtual USPEP classes while that window of opportunity allows us to do so. This morning, I was teaching a USPEP course, so we encourage you to check out Appraiser eLearning and find out some information on that. Julie, what's your favorite number?
My favorite number?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. 7?
7. I know if John was on, he'd say 20 because he always gets me to bet money on 20 at the craps table. All right. So what's your favorite color?
Green.
So you had no idea I was going to ask you those.
No.
So Benjamin, can we do a discount code for green 7?
Oh.
You've got to make the decision, Ben, whether that's a 7 or an 07, because I don't know. But green 7, we're going to give you a discount, and Ben will tell you whatever that is, because I don't know.
I need USPAP, so.
Oh, good. Well, you missed out today, but well, he can't keep his mouth shut, and he is. You know, so. I mean, you know, what are you going to do? There's always one in the crowd that has to, you know, enter the room and put his 2 cents in. And so,
you know what? I asked for it. Bring in the dinger.
So Ben, he's muted, which might be the best. So ladies and gentlemen, someone just entered the room. Mr. John Dingman is in the house. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? I tried to stay out of this fray. I gave you the better representative.
I know, and that's what I'm focusing on. And then, you know, she mentioned your name and like magic, poof, you're here.
I tried not to interfere, but we work good together, and Julie's got it going on and knows when to defer when she needs to. That's for sure.
So she asked you a question. Are you here to answer or just be a disruptor?
Are we talking about FHA?
Yes, please.
So FHA, you're going to complete the appraisal as though it meets minimum property requirements. So you shouldn't say that it doesn't. If it doesn't, then that's based on your visual observation from the street. If you're doing an exterior or whatever information was provided to you for the desktop. If you are aware that it doesn't meet, then you should call out for those repair items. If you're doing it as is, FHA is certainly allowing an extraordinary assumption. So something like, based on my observation from the street, it would appear that the property meets all minimum property acceptability criteria.
Are you at your house?
Yeah, as far as you know.
You got
do the basement one.
You got a lot of.
You really want me to change? I was trying to. There you go.
Oh, you got a green screen.
For my basement, just like the rest of
you. Know, I have a green screen, but I couldn't. I mean, I did a thing this morning. I didn't have time to do it. Yeah, I taught Al how to do that the other day. We were trying to have a serious conversation, and Hal's like, "Well, he had a big green screen." I said, "Why don't you use it?" He's like, "Well, because I got to." I said, "No, you don't. Here's how you do it." And so Jim, Hal, and I were trying to have a very serious conversation, and I shouldn't have told Hal how to do it because you blink and there's Homer Simpson's couch behind him, and then something, and then the Starship Enterprise was behind him. I'm like, oh my Lord. So let me ask another question. I think this is a great leeway into something else we thought we might talk about today. YT, I assume that is his or her initials. On traditional appraisals, can I use photos taken by the owner?
Okay, let's make a clarification here. The GSCs are very explicit in their FAQs that you may not use a virtual tour, a FaceTime, or photos from the borrower or from any other source than yourself on a traditional appraisal.
Okay, very good, very good. So I want to play something. I want to play just a little snippet of a video. And this video was when in December, we had Julie Jones on and we had Mr. George Dell from California. And we were talking about the future of appraising. Do you remember that, Julie?
I know where you're going with this.
And yeah. I'm not high tech, so I'm going to have to take my headphones off and put on this microphone so you can hear it. So I'm just going to play a snippet. Everyone pay attention and be patient with me. Let me make sure I can share my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right, everybody listen up.
We can't hear it.
Before I give my prediction, I want everyone watching to understand that most things change. But I said most things change. And if you don't believe that statement, look in the mirror. Things are going to change whether you want them to or not. Right? The guy that had the 1-hour photo lab that was his film for you, you go pick it up after 2 hours, tape it on your report. Well, if he didn't modify his business model, he's out of business today. The gentleman that right down the street from where I'm broadcasting right now, who did modify his business model to start selling digital cameras and start processing it. Back then, if you dropped your camera, you took it to Eddie and Brady and fixed it because those cameras were expensive, right? He doesn't thrive in business. He will convert your videotape over to digital. He'll do whatever you want him to do in the digital realm, if you will. He saw the change coming and he adapted. I may be completely wrong here, but I think the real estate industry is about to be disrupted, and I think the appraisal is next. We live in a society now of this, right? Everybody likes to type. They don't like to talk on the phone. And they don't like to see each other socially. When's the last time you was at a restaurant, 4 people were sitting on a table and they were doing this? You see it all the time. I was just at a graduation and the 21-year-old, 22-year-old.
Oh, good Lord.
Behind me said, we like to have a cocktail or 2 or 3 before we even go out to the party because we're just so anxious. We have so much anxiety. That's the world we live in. You can get a pizza delivered to you and you're cooking it on the way to your house. Netflix, the streaming, cable businesses get back to. How many of you have a home telephone right now? Things change. So I think what's going to happen on the real estate side is the real estate agents, a lot of them are going to go away. It's a tough business. I am an agent now as well. And I have door openers. So George, you want to buy a house? Let me know when you pull up and I'll send it. I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to happen. I'd love for it to be appraisers. Maybe those watching, it's a great time to open a PDC company. I don't know, something to think about. But then with the technology, just like as Julie described, this thing that'll scan everything and put where the windows are and talk about where the refrigerator is and what type it is and what the life expectancy it has. You're going to be able to get so much data at your fingertips. like George can do a scattered graph and see what.
Oh, come on.
Are behaving. You're going to be able to get big data in every aspect of that home at your fingertips. So I think it's going to go from a PDC to eventually a homeowner is going to capture data and upload it to the cloud, and you're going to be asked to do a desktop one. I may be completely wrong, but I doubt it.
So sorry to take an hour to get there. Lord, Ben, why didn't you prep that for me? But my whole point of playing that was my prediction for the future. And this was in December that was recorded. This was in December, before COVID, all that good jazz, right? My prediction was sometime in the future, we were going to have property owners put in data points or characteristics about their home, take photos or videos, send that to the lender or AMC, and then we would rely on it. So, Julie, what's going on with you guys now?
You just wanted me to point out that you were right. That's all you wanted out of me. Good Lord. Okay.
Let me just say this. I had no idea that it would be a consequence of a virus hitting the world for that to happen. But go ahead and highlight what's Class got going on now with regard to what I said in that video.
Sure. I do want to make a distinction. So before on the previous webinar, we were talking about the use of 3D scanning. And so that was on our innovation side. And so what I am going to describe to you and what other vendors and software providers are doing right now for the homeowner space is born out of necessity on these limited transactions where alternates are a possibility and are approved by your GSEs, HUD, USDA, et cetera. And it is above and beyond what the appraiser is getting. And so I'll just dive right in. So just like several others, we're supporting our appraisers and clients with a homeowner enabled app. It truly is just to keep the flow of business going. And to the point that I made earlier is there are a lot of appraisers out there that did not work in a pre-2008 world. They are not accustomed to doing exterior only appraisals, or maybe they were, maybe they're veterans in the appraisal business. They just never did them. They never had to do them. Right. And so this is going to bridge the gap in the information that's going to be available to you. And so what we've done is we've enabled this for exterior only appraisals, where when that lender places the order, so it's called photo enhanced exterior only, then we immediately send instructions and a link to that borrower to say, hey, we're going to use your, photos and your information about your house to give to the appraiser to make sure that appraiser has all of the information that they need to determine the most accurate opinion of value. Because especially on these refi transactions, you may have, like, if you've got MLS data on the subject, it may be dated. That's why the GSEs did desktops or allowed desktops on purchases, because there was readily available MLS data for the most part on some of these homes. So in a refi transaction, you may have very little insight into the interior of the home. And so this is to supplement the other third-party data sources that you have. I want to also make very clear, the appraiser can take that information in and say, I don't want to rely on it. You have those flexibilities in your limiting conditions, your scope, and your certifications. And so that's my little soapbox portion of that. But I'll go ahead and share it. The reason why you see two with me on the screen, a Photoshop version and your unfortunate real live version, the Photoshop version is actually from my phone, and I'm gonna just demo what that experience is gonna look like for the homeowner. And so again, like I said, we're not doing anything, that's groundbreaking or necessarily innovative in relation to our competitors and others out there in the industry. We're just providing a free tool actually keep the flow of business going.
Wait a minute. Did you say free?
It is free.
Oh, I like free. And I think our viewers like free. And while she's pulling that up, let me just say this. If you were asked to appraise a house with an effective date of the day before the fire burned it to the ground, I mean, how are you getting your property characteristics on that? And if you call an interview, like I called John, tell me a little bit about the house the day before it burned down. Oh, I just put marble floors in every room. And I did, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do you have a picture of, and so a lot of times when we do a total loss like that and there's nothing left, or maybe a hurricane comes through or tornadoes rip through your town or something, and you weren't in that house the day before the house was destroyed. One of the good ways to try to paint the picture, if you will, is to try and get pictures or something like that of what that house looked like before the damage occurred. Okay, go, Julie.
I am trying. Hold on one
okay.
second. Trying to share my screen so you can actually. There we go. Thank you, Ben, if that's what you did. Oh, you're seeing me. Cool. You didn't want that. Goodness. I'm trying to share my screen, Ben. Could you
Yep. I'm gonna mute your other one, and I'm going to. Okay, so now can you share the green button in the bottom toolbar? Let's see.
Are you working in the basement today, John, or just, hanging out down there because it's cooler, or what?
I'm in Arizona, so of course the basement would be cooler. I have one.
Blair.
there we go. Perfect.
Is that your dog?
This is Atticus Finch, yes.
Cute.
He's all right. Okay. So forgive me a little bit. I use the dark mode in my phone, so obviously the screen's going to look a little bit different. But the borrower would get a welcome email, etc., and then they'll receive a secure link. And so this is going to take them. So the app is called Your Home, Envision Your Home. That authentication code is automatically put in there for them.
And this is what's sent to the property owner, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so that's another good thing to point out is, so again, this is on just class valuation orders. And so what we really like about it is it's a secure link. It's a web-based app. And that appraiser still doesn't have to have any interaction with that homeowner whatsoever. And so you're promoting appraiser independence there as well. And so we actually send this right when the order is placed. And so it's a seamless transaction. And then once the information is submitted, we send that directly to the appraiser to consider for their appraisal. All right. So this is a good point. It's going to ask about your current location. And so we've instructed the homeowner that they must allow the location sharing, because this is what's going to geocode those photos just to ensure that those photos were taken at the subject property. All right.
So you don't have to worry about the homeowner says, oh my God, my next door neighbor just updated their kitchen and it's so beautiful. So what I'm going to do is go over to my neighbor's house and take the pictures of the kitchen and send it to the appraisal company and tell them I just updated my kitchen. We don't have to worry about that kind of trickery, right? Is that what
Exactly.
I'm hearing, Julie?
Yeah.
Right.
So automatic geocoding is built in. And so I'm going to start with the rooms. It preloads the kitchen, bedroom, and bath, just because we would expect you would have a kitchen, bedroom, and bath in there. But you can go in, you can add more rooms, and you can also delete. And so I'm going to go here. I just click the photo icon. I'm going to take that photo, and I'm going to choose Use Photo. And then you see that light went green, or that dot went green on the bedroom. I can also delete this room. So yes, delete it. I'm going to also delete the kitchen. And then I can add any other room as well. And it looks at automatically send it back in. So let me go ahead and just take the photos just to be done. All right, and so then it's going to ask for features, and it describes what features would be. So we're looking for those amenities like a pool, outbuildings, any views, etc. And so I could add that feature. I'm going to take the photo again, use it, and then describe it, and then save. And then same thing for updates. And so that's going to be any renovations that the homeowner has done that they want to capture.
Why don't you take a picture of your teapot or something so they can see instead of your computer?
All righty. How about I take a photo of these beautiful?
No, that's very pretty.
Yeah. All right.
And so that would geocode and said that picture was taken in Julie's house or Julie's kitchen.
Correct.
By address, basically.
Yep. And so that's pretty much it. This is a very simple an app that can be used by the homeowner. It was, created this way by design. You don't want anything that the user just can't pick up and walk through on their own. You don't want to have to send them an instructional manual on how to do it. So it's pretty intuitive. And if they, for example, submitted and then realized they forgot something, we would be able to send them another link because every link is unique. We would send them another email and link, and then we would supplement the additional photos and data with the original. So I'm going to submit now. It says success at the bottom, and now it says I'm finished. And that's all of the screen share that I want to do there. All right, so we're back to normal, and I can get off of this and just be on the computer now. Okay. So that was that. And if you want to know any more information about that, we do have Appraiser FAQs for our audience as well. Let me share my screen now, and I'll take you to that website. Let's see. All right, so you're going to do classvaluation.com/yourhomeapp. And it's just going to guide you through, talk about the benefits, the reason why we created it, a little quick and dirty about how it works, and then your appraiser FAQs are here. This is actually a pretty comprehensive document on if you should consider the information provided, what your obligations are. We've added those there for you as well. And then if you need some more information or have questions, fill this out. It's ultimately going to go to me. And so I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you got there.
Awesome. Hey, Julie, Dan just asked a question. And his question is, we put this information in our reports and how? That's a question. So I guess he's wanting to know, the photos from the property owner and all that good jazz.
Yep. So as soon as we get them, we don't do anything to them, by the way. We don't scrub them. We don't QC them. This is going to be the raw data from that homeowner. We will then just automatically send that over to the appraiser with a link. So all of the data essentially will be in a zip file for the appraiser, and they can import that directly into their software. Very,
very good. Julie Jones, thank you for being here today. I mean, it was kind of short notice. You were in the middle of a move, and John volunteered you to come and volunteered you to come. And
if Jason tells me to do something, I do it. He's our chief appraiser.
God, please don't. Please don't.
He's awesome, Bryan.
Please don't.
By the way, Julie, you never want to get into a disagreement with Bryan. We sat at a table one night for 2 hours insisting that I was right, and he's insisting he's right. So it's a never-ending kind of battle.
I won. I won, by the way.
No, you did not.
We had to take crayons and color on the table, but I proved my point. But anyway, John, thanks for, I didn't know you were a party crasher, but I guess you're kind of welcome anytime to crash the party. I had the doors locked.
I asked for it.
Yeah, Ben must have let you slide through somehow. I'm not sure how that happened, but
well, Julie started it. I know you and I've had private conversations, but I love you, brother. So
yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. I actually got to talk to you for
Talk about a big talker, Julie. This guy down here with the hat on.
Never would have known. Never heard that
Yeah.
word.
So it's like, okay, John, I got to go. I'm cooking a steak and drinking a Corona Fresca. And I think I had about 4 by the time I got him off the phone. I'm just kidding. But anyway, Julie, thank you so much for being here today and showing what Class is doing to try and keep appraisers safe and yet be able to collect some data that we kind of need to do our job. And John, thank you for also jumping in and helping out with a hard question that neither she nor I knew the answer to. So thank you for doing that. If anybody watching right now would like to reach out to you, Julie, and maybe you too, John, how do they do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you guys?
I literally have the easiest name on the planet. So it's just jjones@classvaluation.com. And I'll take that and answer your questions. If you go to any of those 2 resources, those websites that we gave you, that's also pretty much a link to me as well. So happy to take any additional questions.
Very good. And John does not have the easiest name on the planet, but John, if somebody needs to talk to you, are you going to give your contact information or no?
It's B Reynolds at jdingaman@classvaluation.com.
Very good. And viewers, don't forget, you can get this nice little packet. I kind of teased about it early on, but it is a lot of good information. I was flipping through it while earlier today while she was going through it. And there's a lot of good stuff there. And I like the links. It's kind of a one place where you can click any link. Oh, I need Fannie Mae. No, I need Freddie Mac. Oh, I need FHA. And it's all right there at your fingertips. So that's kind of a cool thing. Hey, any final thoughts from each of you of, what you think appraisers really ought to do? I mean, we all got to earn a living. And it's tough out there. I know I did a final the other day and I had like I said, I'm probably the safest guy on the planet, but I still, out of respect, I put a mask on and gloves on. And when I knocked on the door, the gentleman, they didn't answer the door. The guy just said, "Come in." And when I went in, the wife was probably 100 feet away from me on the other side of the room. And the husband was probably a good 25 feet away from me. But the minute I walked in and I had a mask and gloves on, I could see a sigh of relief on this gentleman. They weren't old, but they certainly weren't young either. But I think they genuinely appreciated the fact that I went in there and had, a mask covering and gloves. What are any last little safety tips for anybody watching out there? What's your thoughts?
From my perspective, I'm going to always say, protect yourself and others first. And so if you can take advantage of some of these alternative flexibilities, please do so. Read up on them. If you have a question about them, email me. Don't sit there in the dark. Email me, and I'm happy. If I don't know the answer, obviously I'll pull in Dingman to help me. But we want to make sure that, and you don't have to even be doing work with Class Valuation. Reach out and we'll guide you through. We'll help you through that process. So education on the products and knowing your obligations is big. If you are going to do an interior inspection, take all those safety precautions, wear the mask, wear the gloves, try to have those borrowers out of the house, try to make the house, go into houses that are vacant. Don't touch things, have all the lights on and the doors open, etc. Just do your best to stay safe out there.
Yeah. Well said. John, you got anything? I mean, how do you add to that? You don't. You're done. You're done. You're toast. You're toast.
He's good.
The one last question, and I know I've kept you here overtime, so I'm sorry about that. Ben will cut you a check. The last question is, if somebody watching says, they seem like kind of okay people for AMCs, maybe I want to get on their list. So if somebody out there watching wants to become a class appraiser panelist or whatever you call them, how do they, what's the avenue for doing that? I know I just got a $1,400 check in the mail from Class, and it was because of I don't do anything for you guys, but my appraisal company down in Nashville does. So how would one want to get on your approved appraiser list if they wanted to make that inquiry?
We make it super easy now. You just do classvaluation.com/appraisers, plural. It's a super easy page where you can see the benefits. I'll just roll up a couple of benefits that are especially important right now: direct deposit and quick pay. We pay out, we start processing your payment within 24 hours of you submitting that appraisal. And so in a time where you might be having to chase down your money, that's kind of important. So go to that page, click the join the panel. It'll take you to the bottom, fill out very basic information, and then my good friend Cynthia Kransick is going to follow up with you and get all of your information, send you a beautiful onboarding packet, and then you will be part of the class family.
Very, very good. Well, guys, thanks again for being here. Hopefully this will pass us soon and we can kind of get back to somewhat of a normal life. We've had to make a lot of adjustments, and everyone has. I mean, everyone has. We're all in this together, and we're going to get through it one way or another. We're going to get through it, and we'll, hopefully be at ball games again and that good stuff in the near future, appraisal conferences and some of that stuff again in the future. So thanks again for being here. I appreciate both of you being here today.
Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you. And again, glad you're back.
Yeah, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. For Julie Jones, John Dingman, and Ben Maxwell, I'm Bryan Reynolds. Have a great day.
Bye.